Hi, glad you're here. Paper review time. Big week of papers for you as well, with big cup action in the European press, and for once it's got nothing to do with Kate Middleton. Phew. Item 1, in fact, is Real Madrid Man City, a game that was like Moo's trousers on the cover of Marca, tight and intense. Madrid has a team again, says the paper, and look, Ronaldo celebrated his goal. AS, meanwhile, across town after the extraordinary 3-2 comeback win, went with cascade of praise. They quote all the big European and international sporting papers here, La Gazzetta dello Sport in Italy. What a good idea to start the Champions League with a final. L'Equipe, this Madrid is incredible. Even the Sun in England, Moo celebrated on his knees, which is how City finished. Basically, ASA just rounded up loads of foreign papers of what they've said and stuck that out. It's plain lazy, isn't it? Says the editorial inside, meanwhile, wasn't this supposed to be the era of Barcelona? It's Madrid who are the first to 100 Champions League wins. Even in this, they're behind us. Well, on that note, let's head over to the Catalan capital, where they want to secede. And it's not because the Camp Nou groundsman has a stutter either. Last week, in fact, the region renewed its calls for independence, and according to Sport, dig that out, since then there's been a campaign by the referees against Barcelona. Yeah, the refs are attacking us in a campaign that proves the intolerance of the Spanish authorities, says Sport. Well, they do wear black shirts. How obvious do you want it? Unbowed anyway, the Camp Nou crowd this very Wednesday were chanting during the 3-2 comeback over Spartak Moscow in Independencia. El Mundo call it a warning to the king in Madrid. Interesting situation developing there. Now, meantime, a little bit further down south in Malaga, the club that of course hit trouble when their tame sheikh lost interest and stopped bankrolling the project during the summer, but who still wowed fans this Tuesday with a 3-0 win in their Champions League debut. Let's get the local reaction to that then. Malaga hoy, apotheosis in La Rosaleda, that's their stadium. 3-0 win, of course, against Zenit St. Petersburg. Sur, meanwhile, has a giant photo there of the local hero Isco, and the headline, Fantastico. What a night, they say. Don't know if we'll ever see its like again. This was perfection, footballing beauty at its highest point. Europe has fallen in love with Malaga after this 3-0 win against Zenit St. Petersburg and fallen at the feet of Isco, the new god of the Spanish game. Well, indeed they had. That, though, was Tuesday, and by Wednesday, the Tarts, Europe had fallen at the feet of someone else entirely. Oscar, of course, Chelsea's new Brazilian star. The Spanish, the French, the Portuguese papers, all dubbing him the new star of football. Italians, meanwhile, though, were rather more impressed with the old lady in the 2-2 draw at Stamford Bridge. What Juve? Says Tuttosport. Big Juve, says Gazzetta dello Sport. Juve stronger than the champions, says Corriere dello Sport. And front page, Juve, oh yes, says the editorial. All right, it was only a 2-2 draw, but it was a demonstration of the real courage at the heart of this team. Plus, if old ladies can't look good in big draws, who can? No praise, as you might expect, for Milan, who drew 0-0 on Tuesday night with Belgian side Anderlecht, leaving, says the headline above, knives sharpened for Allegri, and says the Gazzetta here, if it all goes wrong for him, they're standing by with Tassotti and Pippo Inzaghi. Can a manager be called offside? We shall see. Now, further afield, Bati Borisov. Wednesday, of course, the Belarusian side got their first ever win in the Champions League, a 3-1 victory away to Lille. Scandalously, nary a mention of it in Thursday's edition of the state-controlled Spark, which is, of course, the biggest Belarusian language paper. This, in fact, was their front page on Thursday, leading instead with the other big local story, problems with the portability of the government's new Nectar card programme. Now, plenty of coverage, of course, for Paris Saint-Germain and Ibrahimovic over in France. Ibra this week, of course, becoming the first player to score for 6 different Champions League teams and look like a tosser at all of them. Paris play a strong hand, says the cover of L'Equipe. They blew up Kiev. Further in, and perhaps even more excitingly, same paper has news of Paris Saint-Germain's new weapon, an anti-gravity machine. Yeah, for real. Players have no fear, they say rather menacingly. It is the future. The apparatus developed by NASA and now brought in by Paris Saint-Germain, although Monaco already had one. It looks like an ordinary running machine, but thanks to special neoprene shorts the players wear, it reduces gravity by 80%. It's basically like having Robbie Savage in your phone in. And says L'Equipe, they'll feel like they're on the moon. Over it, surely. Well, finally then, Italian sacking news. And this week's sacking comes from Palermo, where managers have the life expectancy of a badger in Somerset. Maurizio Zamparini indeed, appointing this week Giampiero Gasparini to take over from Giuseppe Sannino after just 3 games of the season. Gasparini, of course, sacked himself by Inter after just 3 games last year too. Zamparini, by the way, has now made 50 managerial changes in his 25 years as a club owner. So in fact, it probably would have been bigger news if he hadn't fired his manager this week. Anyway, on that note, that's where we'll finish off this week's look at the papers. We won't be here next week because I'm away, but do join us in a fortnight when we return with more European tittle-tattle. See you then.